Hi, I'm Mp Terry Sheehan, and I'm delighted to be here today with the Shaw viewers to talk about what's happening in the steel industry today. Recently we launched Budget 2017, and within that budget it had a bunch of things that are going to strengthen the steel industry in Sault Ste. Marie and Canada. When I was first elected in 2015, the steel industry was very challenged, both locally and nationally. That's why I, went for the chair of the All-Party Steel Caucus, and I was glad to get that. And I am currently active as the chair. We've had a number of meetings, and the topics we've discussed were, of course, dumping. That's a federal issue. As you know, pensions and the environment are provincial issues, but that particular issue was the one that was identified to me when I was first elected as being critical to strengthening the steel industry, both locally and nationally. So we brought in people to present, the Steel Producers Association, the unions, to inform all members that participate from all parties about what needs to be done. Also, through a number of meetings with the Prime Minister, with cabinet ministers, I was able to identify that this had to be a priority for this government. And I was delighted that in the budget, which was released just months after we were elected, that we had concrete ways to battle dumping. And in particular, it lengthened the time in which the penalty would stay in place against a country, say like China, that had dumped some steel. So the steel industry was happy, the unions were happy, and within that, we also committed to consult broadly on possible new ways to combat steel dumping. So that was a win-win. So we had immediate action because I know locally the SR, Tenaris, they both had things in there that they wanted, and we got that for them. So fast forward to 2017, the industry, the stakeholders were very happy. We're able to, fight countries as non-market, potentially non-market sectors, anti-circumvention, scoping, which basically means you can't go through the back door through another country. Also, if they sort of switch up the product diameter of a pipe or something like that, we still can apply the penalty. And union participation, where unions are now at the table and can provide a voice during the process where we demonstrate the injury that it has to both workers and pensioners. There's 13,000 direct and indirect jobs just at SR alone, and I committed to stand up and fight, and that's what I'm doing. I'm fighting for the people of Sault Ste. Marie and Canada. And those opportunities that were presented in the budget around fighting foreign steel dumping happened through a number of avenues, including the All-Party Steel Caucus, but also through my activity in the what they call Industry Committee, that deals with economic development, science, technology, innovation. So it's really the economic development arm of the government that I participate in. And we just finished a manufacturing study. And in that, I made sure that steel was identified as a priority, that we heard testimony from both the unions and the steel producers about how we can strengthen the industry. And within that, there was, of course, the realization that dumping is an issue. And it's been decades since we've seen any action, in remedy and strengthening and modernizing our trade, here back in Canada. So these changes also bring us more in line that was introduced by Bill Morneau with the United States. And that's critical with this new administration. The new administration has made it a priority, and we need to make sure that we stand up for steel here in Canada too. And to have measures that are very similar to theirs is critical as well, so that we can emphasize that we need to work together to strengthen the steel industry in Canada and the United States. Back in June, I was pleased, me as co-chair of the All-Party Steel Caucus, we wrote a letter to then Prime Minister Trudeau and President Obama, as well as the Mexican president. And I was delighted that when they met, the Three Amigos Summit in Ottawa, that they signed a trilateral agreement to work together to fight steel dumping by sharing information amongst those countries. That was a real win for us. And I was happy to pen that letter with my other co-chair from the Hamilton area, as well as the American Steel Caucus. So we're working with them. The Congressional Steel Caucus down there's a lot of members. We want to continue that work with the new administration, the new Congress, and we're been invited. We're going to go down, and I lead a delegation of all party folks down to Washington to talk about the importance for us to continue to work together to demonstrate that the steel industry, on both sides, is critical to mutual benefits. They are our number one bilateral relation in the world, and we want to make sure that we are standing up there and emphasizing the importance of our steel industry. They've said they're going to tweak the North American Free Trade Agreement, so we want to be proactive and continue to chat with them to show those benefits of working together to fight foreign dumped steel, but to make sure that trade between our two countries when it comes to steel continues. 50% of Canadian steel is exported, with a lion's share of that going to the United States. We also consume a lot of American steel as well here, so that is of critical importance. We've also studied the dumping issue at the Trade Committee. I was asked to be a Liberal representative at that special committee on dumping because of my involvement and my passion for steel. And we heard excellent testimony from, again, the steel producers, the unions, experts, stakeholders, professors who are experts on the industry. We heard a lot of very, very great testimony. And I was very pleased to see that not only are we fighting dumped steel, but we're creating opportunities for the steel industry and the manufacturing industry here in Canada. Over $1 billion over 5 years is going to a very special SIF fund. It's a innovation fund, which will be $1 billion over 5 years for advanced manufacturing, clean tech, the digital economy, and agriculture. So of course, the first two, the advanced manufacturing and clean tech, the steel we produce in Canada is the greenest around. It's 10 times less a carbon footprint than, say, Chinese steel because of the technologies we employ. So it's an ability for us going forward as we solve our both local and national issues about the process that going under in CCAA as markets are turning around as well in the oil and gas industry, that we have immediate tools to fight dumping, but also we have points of access for investment for these industries as they go forward. So I'll be there fighting to make sure that Sault Ste. Marie gets its fair share of that particular fund, working with not only the larger employers, but the smaller employers that deal with the steel industry. There's 2,800 employees at SR, but there's 10,000 other indirect jobs related. So I see an opportunity, and I have worked with and I've toured some smaller shops related to steel, and there's some really great things happening here in the area. And I just see a lot of opportunity going forward to not only maintain jobs, but create jobs in that particular industry. And on that note, we're also making investments in FedNor. For 10 years, FedNor has seen cut after cut after cut after cut. So in this budget, we're investing $25 million extra above their base budget, $5 million a year for 5 years. So it'll bring it the total to $230. Which is very important for regional economic development, because we also need to diversify our economy, not only just in steel and steel manufacturing or value-added steel, but other sectors of the economy. Now that's going to go hand in glove, that $230 million, with the $1.26 billion identified for advanced manufacturing, clean tech, digital, and agri, which is all important to the Sioux and to Northern Ontario. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to work with the existing businesses around steel and look at new opportunities to diversify our economy as well. So there are also, one of the really important things for the steel industry as well in Canada is we're continuing our investments in infrastructure. And infrastructure uses a host of materials and building, including steel. So our national housing strategy has identified that we need to take a look at that and also start building about $11 billion. And that will also create market demand for steel, which is important, along with our other commitments in infrastructure. Here locally, we've seen, just recently I announced $12.6 million to our post-secondary institutions to build some new buildings, to offer some new programming in environment, in entrepreneurship, in maintaining their programming in the Anishinaabe Discovery Center, in First Nations language and culture. So when we invest in infrastructure, it has immediate demand and needs to create jobs for the construction industry. They're happy about that because there's a lot of people that aren't working right now and haven't been working in a little bit. This provides them those opportunities to work, creates the demand for products like steel, which helps the steel industry in Canada as well, and it also has the long-term benefit in this case of providing education and training for the people of this area in Canada. So that's a real win-win as well. So this budget was made for Sault Ste. Marie, the riding of Sault Ste. Marie. It really was. It made historic changes to modernize the trade remedy system that hasn't been seen in decades and decades. The stakeholders have told me again and again they appreciate my efforts in setting up meetings with the Prime Minister, with key cabinet ministers, with other parliamentarians, to giving them their voice at the table, participating with them in a meaningful way, and myself as well, having lobbied the Prime Minister. One of the first meetings at our National Caucus meeting as I was addressing what was happening at SR Steel. I was told at that time we need to elevate the discussion on the importance of the steel industry because they felt that hadn't happened in a very long time. And I did that, and the Prime Minister listened at that time. So he also assigned cabinet ministers. Immediately the finance minister is meeting with local stakeholders about the local situation. It was amazing. The trade minister, at my request, did a round table with the steel industry. I helped set up 44 opportunities for the steel industry during Steel Days in Ottawa to have about 44 meetings with various parliamentarians and cabinet ministers. We have stood up in the House of Commons again and again and again and talked about the importance of steel. And it is my personal commitment to the people of this community to continue to fight for those jobs, for those pensioners. You know, they worked hard all their life. There's just at ESSER, there's 13,000 direct, indirect, but there's also over 6,000, 7,000 pensioners that are relying on the viability of the industry. So that is what drives me and keeps the passion burning in my stomach when I stand and speak and when I eyeball the Prime Minister or Cabinet Minister and say how important it is. And I'm so pleased of how receptive they are. I've mentioned again and again the Prime Minister. I was approached by Tenaris and they said that their global CEO would like to meet with the Prime Minister. They're looking at doing a limited restart around the world. And they have lots of options because they have operations all over the world. And I was proud of the local people. They said, we want Sault Ste. Marie to be one of those. But he would like to have a one-on-one with the Prime Minister. So I did arrange it. He said he'd meet with them. I was pleased that they went from 68 people to 125, 150. Before Christmas, there were 250, 300, and you know, currently it's my understanding that 435. And a lot of that, they said, their choice was because their global CEO felt comfortable with the Prime Minister's commitment to the steel industry. They talked about dumping. They talked about pipelines. Shortly after their meeting, this government did approve the 2 pipelines in Canada with a lot of environmental conditions because we believe that you can grow the economy and protect the environment at the same time. They go hand in glove. So we did that. And there are other market conditions that have factored in their decision making, but I was glad that the Soo was one of the first places that did one of these limited startups. And they do mention that it was because of the Prime Minister meeting with Pablo when he went to Argentina. It was the only outside meeting of his official trip. And they were able to do that. You know, we've talked with many people over the time frame, and they say how important it is for decision makers to be able to have access to leaders, and more important than that, leader to be able to understand sincerely and be able to explain sincerely what the plans are And Mr. Trudeau, our Prime Minister, is very much like that. He is able to work with world leaders to bring benefit to this country as well. So I was pleased that he personally took up the local steel industry file and stood tall. Good news, after our budget, I was sent an email the day after. We put more trade remedies in, penalties, we modernized it. The Tenera sent me an email and said that they're doing a limited restart in Calgary. It's smaller and they're starting up there, but the people out west are benefiting too from our decision to stand by steel. And so it's helping the industry in the Soo, but it's also helping our folks out west as well. It's all interconnected. The supply chain, I explain that all the time, that the supply chain industry has to be healthy in Canada. You know, whether it's infrastructure projects being approved and built, providing for steel, or oil and gas industry needs to be healthy for the local industry here as well. The supplies that they rely on have to be healthy as well, so that, you know, we continue to function. The auto industry is critical to the steel industry, so it's all working together and moving our economies forward. SR Steel, they themselves have been pleased with what's happened in the 2017 budget. They said it was absolutely critical. And as they restructure and come out a stronger company, there'll be opportunities for you know, SR to, you know, move forward in a stronger way and protect those jobs and those pensioners as well. There's been lots of meetings. The unions, we're providing a voice for the unions to participate in, you know, fighting dump steel. Once the process begins, they are brought and have a seat at the table, which they never had, where they can explain in a very passionate way how this is affecting their workers, their members, pensioners. And that is a very effective voice. And I was pleased to see that the unions have a seat at the table. So it's critical that we continue, not to rest on our laurels, because we know going forward there's going to be opportunities, but there'll be challenges. My commitment is to continue to work as passionately as I have since 2015, to continue to fight for the steel industry, make sure it's strengthened, because it's critical not only to the folks here in my riding, but for the rest of the country. And we're heading down to Washington to have that chat with the American Congressional Steel Caucus to talk about steel and to find ways we can work together and to demonstrate and emphasize why we need to continue trading openly in the steel industry as well. So stay tuned. We have a lot of very great announcements coming up in the near future. The budget is a great budget for this community. It's at a critical time, and the commitment is in black and white. You can go to my website, you can read it, and that's tsheehan.liberal.ca, and it's in black and white, and it's exciting times. There's opportunities ahead, and I'm going to continue to fight for your right to live, work, and play here in this community. Thank you.